Hi everyone, this is Samantha from the Dancing Soap Dish. I hope you're well. Today I want to show you these really cool melt and pour soap embeds I made. They're rainbows in different shapes and sizes. As you can see, they're coloured on the front, but I've just put a layer of white on the back there. That extra layer is just to strengthen the embed and also just thicken it up a little bit. So let's talk about what we can do with these embeds. Say we got just your typical rectangular soap mold here. I'm going to turn it over and just pretend that the back of the cavities are actually bars of soap. So we have this rainbow here, which fits perfectly in the bar of soap as a beautiful arched rainbow. I think that's really cool as a soap design. Then there's this embed, which is actually not a full arch. It's about 2/3 of one, and it's got a slightly bigger arc too. Like if I add this to it here and show you how it would look like if it was half or a full arch. See how it doesn't fit on the bar of soap? It's too wide. So this way, you could maybe put a cloud on either side and still have the bow in the middle. It's got a much wider arc here than this one, which allows you to do a few different designs. The one I just mentioned with the clouds either side, or you could do it like that, going into a cloud or a star, or you could even make a vertical soap bar, again with the rainbow maybe coming out of a cloud. That would look pretty good too. And then you have these cute little tiny mini rainbow embeds. They're only 3 colors, but they're super cute. And you could use these to decorate the top of a loaf or the top of a slab, or even just, embed in a rectangular bar of soap like this. Very, very cute, and lots of uses for something like that. Lots of different color options too. I mean, I've sort of picked traditional rainbow colors, but you could do anything really and it would still be recognizable as a rainbow. You could also maybe just fit 2 into each of these rectangular bars, maybe cut the bars in half and make little mini rainbow guest soaps. That'll look pretty cool too. So basically the limit is your imagination with what you can do with all these different types of rainbow soap embeds. Now, possibly the coolest thing about these soap embeds is that they were actually all made using the same mold. The different shapes and the different sizes all came from a single mold. So if you recall, a little while ago, I made these really cool rainbow soap bars by using round cookie cutters to create different colored concentric circles, and then I cut the bars up into 4 pieces and got this really cool rainbow effect. So the idea of rainbows being a circle sort of got me thinking, can I find a circular mold with different colored rings that I can use to make rainbows? And the answer, of course, was yes. I found this mold on TEMU, which is exactly what I was looking for. 6 concentric circles in a mold that's not too big. It's about 10 centimeters wide, which is about 4 inches. You can make rainbows with anywhere from 3 to 6 different colors, and you can cut the circle into halves, quarters, or thirds to get different rainbow shapes. So here I have 4 of my rainbow making molds and a variety of rainbow colored micas. I'm going to be using a transparent soap base to make my rainbows. It doesn't have to be super clear, it doesn't have to have great clarity. Any transparent soap base is fine. I'm weighing out 30 grams and I'm going to quickly melt that in the microwave. I also have some titanium dioxide suspended in glycerin here. I'm going to add 1 drop, and then I'm going to start off with blue. I have a mica spatula here and I am measuring out 1 scoop of blue mica. I also have sprayed it with isopropyl alcohol just to help it mix in. I have this little paper shot glass size cup here, and I'm separating my blue soap into 2 parts. I've added another mica spatula's worth of purple to one of the halves, and I'm adding a spatula worth of green to the other. So basically I find, a rainbow is supposed to have 7 colors. So when you have to reduce it down, I find that it's good to somehow sort of blend some of the colors that you're missing together. So by blending the blue and the purple and making sort of an indigo color, and then blending the blue and the green and getting like a bluey green, it sort of tricks the eye into sort of seeing all those different colors, even though the rainbow is only going to technically have 4 colors in it. Now you saw me just pinch the edge of my paper cup to make a spout, and I'm very carefully pouring my soap into the rings, different rings depending on which type of rainbow I'm trying to make. Spraying that with alcohol to get rid of any of the surface bubbles. Make sure that it's topped up quite high, even to the point of overflowing. I wouldn't worry about making a mess because you can always fix that up. It's just more important that the color is filled to the brim. So I'm going to give that a spray there. Keep any leftovers you have just by pouring it into a spare mold. I've got a great video that shows you what I do with all my soap scraps. You should definitely check it out. I'll put a link in the video description. Okay, so now moving on to the green. I just need to tidy up a little bit of this mess that I made. See how this purple is almost set already? It's hard enough that I can just use this skewer here to tidy up around the edges. My green probably needs another 5 seconds in the microwave because it was getting a little bit thick. But I'm just going to pour the next color, which is the green. I'm only using the green in 2 of my embeds. So just these 2 here. Again, pouring it all the way to the brim, going as high as I can, keeping my leftovers there in a spare mold, spraying it with alcohol, and also just making sure that the edge of the green is touching the edge of the blue, because I don't want a gap in between my colors. So I'm just pushing the green against the blue in any spots where there was a gap. This part here of the purpley blue is now set enough that I can scrape that out quite easily and tidy that up. See, these small little bits here are set to the touch already. They're a little bit soft, but definitely set. That's how fast it sets up when it's such a tiny amount of soap. Okay, so I'm on to my next color, and I'm going to weigh out another 30 grams of my soap base. 1 drop of the titanium dioxide. I use the titanium dioxide just to make the soap slightly less transparent, just to give it a little bit of an opaqueness. So I put 1.5 spatulas of yellow mica, and then another half of the orange, because I want to make like an orangey yellow, because orange is one of the colors I'm going to be leaving out. It was possibly a little bit too orange, so I did add a little bit more yellow. And I'm happy with that. I was just lifting it up to check that there's nothing sitting on the bottom. Putting it in my little cup. You just don't fill your paper cups all the way to the top, or else you won't be able to, make that spout. And you also might burn your fingers through the cup. It's only paper. So definitely leave a gap at the top for you to hold it and for you to pinch that spout out of. You can always top it up if you run out. And again, I'm pouring the next rings on all my little embeds, just giving it a tidy up, making sure that the yellow is poured all the way to the brim, and also that it is touching the green, that there's no gaps there. And again, the excess is just poured into a spare mold. There we go. Okay, so the final color, of course, is red. Another 30 grams of the transparent soap base, another drop of titanium dioxide, and another 2 scoops of mica. I'm going to mix that all up, and while you watch me pour the red, I want to talk a little bit more about these molds. As I said, I found them on TEMU. I don't usually shop on TEMU. There's a couple of reasons for that. First, where I live in Australia, there's actually a $50 minimum to shop on TEMU. And you need to buy quite a lot of stuff when the stuff is so cheap to get up to $50. I'm assuming it's because Australia is geographically isolated and shipping must come into play. Secondly, I can normally find the same things on other online marketplaces, for example, AliExpress, Amazon, Shine, etc., that actually don't have minimum order quantities here in Australia. And another reason is stuff on TEMU normally doesn't last long and it can be hard to find again. I like to leave links to the materials and the molds that I use in the descriptions of my videos so that my followers can find them so they can make my projects. And I noticed already that this mold is, no longer for sale from the seller that I bought it from, but now for sale at a different price from another seller. And it's just really confusing and really hard to keep track of. But you know what? I searched and I couldn't find a similar mold anywhere else. So I'm hoping that that's just because this mold is new and then that changes so that there'll be other places you can get it from. But I will leave the details in the video description and I'll try and keep it updated regularly too, because I think this is just such an excellent mold. Everybody is going to want one. Okay, so back to what we're seeing on the screen. I've let these harden up for a couple of hours, so it's later in the day. It's time now to put on my back layer. So I'm just giving the back of the embeds a bit of a clean up and the molds a bit of a clean up. I'm weighing out 150 grams of the same transparent soap base. I'm going to colour this soap white because that's the background colour I intend on using later with my embeds. So I've added 3 drops of titanium dioxide. A good rule of thumb is 1 drop per 50 grams of soap base, and 6 scoops of pearlescent white mica. Again, a rule of thumb is 2 scoops per 50 grams of soap base, and as I said before, I've got 150 grams of soap base here. The first thing I'm going to do is just top up the empty spaces of each of the mold. So the soap is up to the same level as the embeds. And then once I've done that, I'm just going to put a thin layer over the back of the embeds. I'm not filling the molds all the way to the top. I don't know if you can tell, but there is a gap between the top of the mold and where I filled it up to. I just want a thin layer on the back of each embed, and I'm just going to use all of my soap until that's done. Okay, and now I will allow that to set. So here they are. They're now fully set and cool to the touch, so it's time to unmold them. The easiest way to do that is to break the seal around the edge, turn them over and peel back the mold. So this is one of my 3 colour rainbows. Well, it's a circle at the moment, but it will be a rainbow. Here's the second one. This is one of the larger rainbows. Here we go. Got white in the middle and around the outside. Loving the colours, and the white's really pretty too. And this is my largest rainbow with the 4 colours around the outside, creating that larger arc. There we go, look at that. I'm happy with the colours. Now it's time to give these a trim. Obviously I need to trim off all the white. Just use a sharp knife to go around the edge of your rainbow and then pop that out. There we go. Smooth the edges if they're a bit rough. You could probably use the side of the knife to do that. There we go. I did figure out quite early on that it's actually easier to keep the knife still and to turn the embed, and that gives you a much smoother cut. So that's what I'm doing here. For this small circle in the center, my knife was a little bit too big, so I ended up perforating around the edge of the circle with the bamboo skewer and then just pushing it out and using the edge of the bamboo skewer to smooth the edges. This circle here was big enough to use the knife. There we go. And also on the larger one, I'm just going to trim that little ridge around the edge. That was actually fun doing that. All right, let's take a look. So this looks like a cute little bullseye, but we know that they're actually going to be rainbows. You can see there is a thin layer on the back of white that like I said, I've added just to strengthen them and to sort of level them out as well. I think they're looking pretty good. Yeah, I really like them. I like the shimmer of the mica as well. I think they look very pretty. So the very last step is obviously to cut them. You're going to need a sharp knife and a ruler. And I also recommend one of these. This is a right angled set square here. That's going to come in very handy. I think I'll start with the little ones. First of all, you will need to measure the width of your circle and then divide that number by 2 so you know how wide half the circle is. And then what you need to do is place the right angle of your set square, measure it halfway, and then use the vertical measure of your set square to measure the same distance vertically. So this helps you find the center point of your rainbow. Okay, and then once you have measured that, you can just take your knife and cut it in half. Now we have 2 little rainbows. Aren't they cute? And let's just check, how close they are to being exactly the same. Look at that. We've measured those and they are exactly the same. So we'll do it again. I've measured the width of it and then put my set square at the halfway mark, both horizontally and vertically. And then that is where I will be cutting my circle in half to make 2 perfectly equal half circles, or in this case, rainbows. Very cute. Look at these 4 very cute little rainbows. I just love that. Very nice. Okay, so let's move on. We know we're going to cut this one in half as well. So again, I'm measuring the width, and then I can use that to find my halfway point. And then I will measure vertically the halfway point too. The handle of my knife was sort of getting in the way. It's sort of bumping against the ruler. So I decided to get my soap cutter to make sure I got a really straight line. Look at that. 2 beautifully perfect rainbows. There we go. Those match up very well too. Very nice. Lovely. Look at that. Okay. Now this one's a little bit trickier. This one, I'm actually going to cut the circle into thirds. So again, what I'm going to do is measure the halfway point of the circle, but I'm only going to cut one side. There we go. And I'll turn that around so the cut is on my left-hand side, and I'll line the ruler up with the halfway mark of the circle again, and I will put the 60-degree angle of my set square at the very center point of the circle, just measuring it with the ruler, and then I'm going to cut along that 60-degree line, which will actually give me an arc of 120 degrees. And 120 times 3 is 360, which is the total degrees in a circle. So again, just lining up that ruler with the halfway cut, and then putting the point of the 60-degree angle of the set square and the center point of the circle, cutting along that 60-degree angle gives me 3 arcs of 120 degrees, and as you can see, they were all perfectly equal. I also just want to quickly talk a little bit more about why I put the backing layer on. Here are some other ones, other embeds that I made exactly the same without the backing layer. As you can see, the back is a bit of a mess, but also they're not level because each sort of layer had to butt up against another one. See the curve on that? They're not sitting flat, and also they're very delicate, and there's also some gaps have appeared in between some of the colors. There's actually, I don't know if you can tell, there's a gap there, and if I try and push that into some wet soap, it'll sort of ooze up through the gaps, and they definitely were more stable and more level with the backing layer. So that's why I chose to do that. So there you have it. Who knew I could talk for so long about Mountain Paw soap embeds? But seriously, check out the video description for info on where you can buy the mold. Also, stay tuned for part 2 of this video, where I'll be actually using the embeds to make some beautiful bars of soap. So that's something to look forward to. I really hope you enjoyed this demonstration on how to make a variety of rainbow embeds from a single mold. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you love what I do. And until next time, guys, enjoy.